Lesson 17, Mortgages and Amortization, Part 2. We're going to jump right in with a problem, but this time it's going to be a general annuity as Canadian mortgages tend to be. Banks will apply the 30% rule. No more than 30% of your gross income may be used for your mortgage payment. If your gross income is $3,333.33, you're looking for a 5-year term on a 25-year amortization, and banks are charging J2 equals 6%. Find the maximum size of the payment and the maximum mortgage. What this means is that the size of the mortgage you can get really depends on your income. Banks are going to evaluate several factors. One of them is your income, and one of them is your debt to credit ratio, how much other debt you have, and how much access to credit you have. If your gross income is $3,333.33 per month, and we can use 30% of that for a mortgage payment, then our maximum mortgage payment is going to be $1,000. So that's the biggest mortgage payment we can afford. If we end up having to pay $2,000, we wouldn't be able to afford it. When we try to calculate our maximum mortgage, we're going to use that as our payment. Let's fill in the rest of our annuity. In a Canadian mortgage, we're typically looking at a general annuity. CY tends to be 2 and PY is 12 because we're paying monthly. Our semi-annual interest rate is 6%. We're going to have this be a 5-year term with a 25-year amortization. When we're calculating that, that's just going to be a 25 years because we're going to pay it off in 25 years. In 5 years, we're going to have to reevaluate and figure out what's going on. We're going to try to figure out our present value here, and our future value is always 0. Begin is off because any money we borrow or pay at the very beginning is part of the down payment. So let's start with that. 12 and CY is 2. Notice when I enter that, PY and CY are now different. N is 300. Our interest rate is 6. Our payment is $1,000. Making that negative, and our future value is 0. So when I compute the present value, we can see that we can afford to borrow $156,297.23, which is a reasonable sized mortgage. That's our maximum mortgage. But if we have some cash to put towards a down payment, we could buy a house that costs $200,000. If we had about $44,000 down payment. So we'd have to put some money down, but we can afford to borrow $156,000. So let's say we got this size mortgage, and I'm going to leave it as is, but in reality, you would probably round that number to 23 cents. So let's look at what happens at the end of this mortgage. Well, we're not at the end of the mortgage. Right now, we're at the end of the term. Let's say 5 years has gone by. Let's look to see what happens. There's a few different methods. Method 1 is going to be to use the amortization, and that's going to be my preferred way of doing things. If we go into that second PV amortization, and P1 is now going to be, it's the end of the 5 years. So P1 is 1. And the end of the 5 years, P2 will be 60. So if I go down, now my balance is $144.12 and 28 cents. Method number 2, well, we could just set n equals 60 and compute the future value. And that would be the exact same thing. Method 3, because we always have another method, is to use Excel. Let's look at this with Excel. You might recognize this as the same type of sheet that we looked at in lesson 16. This is an amortization table or an amortization schedule for our mortgage. Except Excel does not deal with general annuities as well as our calculator does. So I put in my semi-annual rate and I converted it to effective using the effect command. Then I had to switch it to a J12 using the nominal command. Finally, I divided it by 12, and that's the interest that I used. You can see that one. So I took my loan balance, I found the interest, I put in my payment is a constant. Principal, again, is just payment minus the interest. And finally, whatever I have is going to be what I started with minus the principal paid is our new balance. And the next month, I just pull my loan balance down from the previous month at the beginning. This is exactly my amortization schedule, and now I can look up any payment I want. I've used a very interesting thing in Excel where I've frozen the panes. So if you'll notice, I'm just scrolling down, and I'm going to scroll down to month 60. At the end of the 60th month, I have $140,412.28. That's exactly what we got on the calculator, which is helpful.